This is episode 43 with Sam Reuter. What happened?
So we were painting a car wash, and I got a call from the owner of the car wash, and I'm just driving along, and she says, "Hey, were you supposed to paint the car wash tan?" And I said, "Ooh, I thought so." We had painted the car wash a deep red, which was supposed to be an accent color. Somehow it got miscommunicated. It was, my fault. I owned it, but my heart dropped. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we had painted the whole car wash this deep red, and we immediately had to go back and cover it with a tan.
Oh, well, the deep red was easy enough, right?
Yeah. So it could have been like, a more neutral color. So we ended up painting it. We got it covered. We got it figured out. And then she was a B&I referral. She was in my group. So the next week at B&I, she gave me a standing testimony. It was kind of funny. And, but she told him how we owned it, and actually turned out to be a really good story.
Awesome.
And turned into a good opportunity. So it was pretty frightening when I got that phone call.
I bet. Like you just shared the experiences, the opportunity in owning it. And then that's really the opportunity to give them a remarkable experience, which she remarked about there later in B&I. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, before we get any further, let's let everybody know today's guest is from the greater Indianapolis area. He owns and operates Painter Pro. Sam Reuter, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Steve. It's an honor to be on here.
Take us back to the beginning. When did you first start working? Did you always have entrepreneurial disease? When the startup days, the very, very young days, when did you, take us back to the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started working when I was about 13 or 14 years old. I had a summer job at our park pool. It was a perfect job for a teenager. So I did that for a couple of years. And then once I got my license, when I was 16, I had 2 jobs in the summer, and one throughout the school year. So always had a lot of stuff going on, always stayed busy when I was a teenager. I come from a very strong work ethic in my family. A lot of entrepreneurial spirit in my family. A lot of, grandparents, aunts, uncles. Just a lot of business-minded people. A lot of successes and a lot of failures.
What types of businesses did they operate? Run?
Yeah, so I'm a third-generation contractor. So my grandpa was an electrician. My father is a plumber. So he had his own business. And then my uncle out in Virginia on the East Coast runs a boiler company. He actually runs like the 7th largest boiler company in the nation.
Really?
35 years, has over 130 employees now. So he's been like probably my biggest inspiration. Just, learning from him and just seeing the culture they have, and just seeing the success, it's a mindset thing. And so him and I just a lot of business-minded people in my family. I started knocking doors when I was 16.
Hold on. You mean cold calling?
Oh yeah. I like
everybody.
I had a lawn care business. I had a mower and a weed eater. My cousin and I started knocking doors. We were scared. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
We could make pretty good money this summer. So we did that for a couple of years in high school, and paid. Got along. Wasn't anything crazy successful, but we had a good time. We learned a lot, and it was kind of a fun thing to do, just going out and getting after it. So then we did that for a couple of years. Then I actually went to college down in Evansville, Indiana, for civil engineering. So I went there for a year, and people call me a social butterfly, is how my brother referred to it. I was a little bit too active on campus. Really liked meeting people. So it was an experience.
So we'd call you a great networker then.
Yeah. Always be connecting. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. It worked out in my favor. It just wasn't the right calling for it. So came back from there, and I started actually doing landscaping again. Did another business back up. And then one day looking for work, and I was on Craigslist, and I found an ad. I think it might've been the landscaping services they were looking for painting crews, this painting company in Indy.
So you were in college?
This was after I didn't graduate. This was after I came back after 2 years. So I thought I wanted to be a civil engineer, and then I realized that I couldn't sit behind a desk all day and just wasn't my thing. So,
Sure. Okay.
uh,
Cool.
so I ended up coming back, and
Yeah.
so I found the ad on Craigslist and was really intrigued by it. And, at that point it was like, I just got back from school. I was kind of just, wanting to get started on something. So I saw this ad. I took it, got an interview with the company. The company is actually probably the second or third largest company in this Indianapolis area now.
Mm.
They're actually one of our competitors. So I actually subcontracted from them, the actual painting. I was doing the work, me and one other guy. So we painted there for about a year and a half or 2 years, in this kind of mainly in the summers, doing exteriors and then doing some interior work on our own. So kind of got started there. Then I had an interesting opportunity. I had gone to high school with a girl, really good friends with her, and her father was a VP of a lumber company.
Mm.
So he'd always liked me. We had done some work at his house, and he came to me and said, "Hey, you need to come work for me." And at that point, it wasn't, I was early 20s, still kind of learning the ropes of everything. And, I just wasn't at a point, I think, where I was ready for running my own business full time. So I ended up working with him at this lumber company. And over a course of 3 years, I started out on nights, working 12-hour nights, actually framing in a production facility. So
Really?
construction kind of, so they were a lumber company. So we would frame wall panels and roof trusses like they do for the production homes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked 12-hour nights and started out like $10 an hour. And within 3 years, I'd moved to 3 different companies with him, traveled. He had kept going to bigger and bigger promotions, and he kept bringing me along because he really liked me and liked what I could do. And he made me work for it. Huh?
Sorry, what year was this?
This was 2000 and I think 2012.
Okay, so in 2012, your lumberyard was going real well, making $10 an hour.
Yeah, so it was a fun job. It was very hard work, very labor intensive, but it teaches you. You have to learn from everything. So, I put in the work, and within a year, I had gone from $10 an hour working nights to managing a 20,000 square foot warehouse where they stored the interior trim. We did window and door installs, a lot of different things with about 10 guys under me, and I was on a salary for like $45,000, and that was great for me. That was a big.
You went from $10 an hour to $45,000 salary
within
1 year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. He just, it was kind of a situation where it was like he wanted to kind of test me out, and he made me. Like I said, I had to work for it.
Yeah.
It turned out to be a really good opportunity. So from there, at the company I was at, they were about a $22 million company when I started there, and I actually went into sales. So we were inside sales. So we had an inside guy and an outside rep, and I did most of the paperwork, most of the work, really. He was a face guy and out in the neighborhoods and talking to PMs and shit like that,
shaking hands and kissing baby.
Yeah, shaking hands and taking check. No, he was a good guy, but good mentor. So we actually, the last year I was there was 2015. We just, myself and the other outside guy together, we handled 3 accounts, and we sold $15 million in gross sales that year. So,
wow.
Yeah, well, the company had grown from 22 million to, when I left there, they were at, I think we did 45 million the last year I was there. So it was like within 3 years, they just grew. Now I checked with them, now they're like a $50 million company. They just keep going up and up. Just second generation owner, very motivated, and just good culture. But
Okay.
I learned from that, take a pause in my story, but I learned from that, their culture there, they had really good people. It was, I love the people I worked with. That was a good environment, but their culture was, and this is something I strive to never do in my business, was they always, if there was an issue, you always wanted to find out first who made the mistake. You had dispatch department, you had sales, you had the guys, production, you had these different departments, and it was always, if the order was wrong on site, who messed up, who made the mistake, not how can we fix this immediately. It was always, let's find out who we can call out first in an email or on a phone call, copy the owner on an email. So it was always very almost, caveman, like just very, very old school. Not, I just didn't like that culture where it was like, let's call each other out instead of, hey, let's work together to fix this.
Yeah.
I've always, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
above the line. Exactly. So it took me a while to figure that out, but that's a very bad environment for people to work in.
Mhm.
Again, good company, but just some of those core values or how the culture was,
Mhm.
and they had systems, but they were systems that, people just did. They weren't written down. There was no formal training.
Okay.
Just a lot of things for a company that size, you see it and you're like, man, running my own business now, I look at that stuff and I think, how in the world do they survive?
Mm.
Just, so a lot of lessons were learned there. Like I said, great experience.
Mhm.
So that was in 2015 was my last, well, I actually worked there into the spring of 2016. I started my business at the end of 2015
Okay.
and in the winter. And sorry, I left there in 2017. That was my.
Okay. So, pardon me. Why'd you leave? What was the?
I had started. I just wanted something of my own, so I had looked online and I found some articles on running a painting business, and I had done that myself before. And I thought, well, low overhead, low startup, like everybody does. And
Yeah.
I mean, this can't be that hard.
Right.
Boy, did I not know. So this would be a walk in the park, no big deal.
Yeah.
So, and I had a good background in sales and management, from the lumber yard. So I ended up, and no, I think it was November of 2015 when I technically incorporated the business. And then in 2016, was just kind of almost like a trial year. Just it was on the side in the summer. Like we only did, I think we did less than $50,000 in revenue. Just kind of testing the waters.
So you're still working with a lumber company?
Yeah, I was still
trying to get this going. Okay.
Yeah, I was still 50, 60 hours a week at the lumber company, and I would go on the weekends and I started knocking doors again. That was natural. Hey, this is how we do it. So I started knocking doors and got a first couple jobs there. And like I said, I didn't really try to do too much because I was still working full time. And so that worked out, pretty well. We had, made a little bit of extra money. It was pretty easy to manage. And I thought, man, this is pretty nice.
Yeah.
A lot of freedom. So in 2017 in the spring, I worked at the lumber company until I think about March or April. And I ended up quitting. I gave my 2 weeks notice and trained my, next person in line and started off on my own full time.
What was your salary? Pardon me, Sam. What was your salary at that point when you?
So, yeah, I had full benefits and everything, and I had a base plus commission. I think in 2016 I made about 60,000,
Okay.
and I was a single guy. That was at 23, 24, that was pretty nice salary, and had an office. Had a lot of perks and flexible vacation, everything. So that really, it was kind of hard to. I won't really say it was hard to leave that, but the guy that I was under was getting older, and the owner came to me before I left, before I told him, and had told me, that I want you to start learning everything he can do, and you're going to be his replacement. And that guy, he made 150 to $200,000. That's what those outside sales reps made. So I knew there was a big opportunity up the pipeline for me.
Sure.
So I kind of left that on the table, really, and kind of took a bet on myself and said, well, I don't want to wait another 2 or 3 years for that to be a reality. I don't want somebody to control my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to control my own. So here we are. So fast forward to now, and I've been. So like I said, I left in the spring of 2017, and worked full time, and then.
Mm-hmm. How'd you get started? So you got going door to door, started drumming up some business, and then what did that look like? So was that it? Was that your initial lead gen? Was this door to door?
Yeah, a lot of door to door. I would do on my own, which is pretty intimidating. As you know, I think that's how everybody starts. Everybody's like, if let's just go knock doors. Somebody's going to give us a job, You're thinking if I knock enough doors, I'll get something. So yeah, that was kind of how we started. And then, we did a little bit of, we actually had a lot of success with some direct mail piece with a direct mailing.
Nice.
I think 3 jobs off of that. And then that turned into, to a couple more, we did the neighbor across the street and neighbor down the road. They started seeing our yard signs, kind of some of the proximity or neighborhood marketing.
Yep.
We did some of that, more like kind of, I would call it maybe almost guerrilla kind of marketing, but just being kind of, aggressive, but trying not to spend a lot of money on it either.
Okay.
I never wanted to, Go ahead.
Pardon me. Do you remember any of the numbers? Do you remember okay, so we threw $5,000 at it and we closed 3 jobs. Do you remember any of those?
The direct mailing, the first one I did was, I think I spent around like $1,000 and I landed, and that was for the postcard. It was EDDM, everyday door direct mail. And that actually turned out to be, it was around maybe $20,000. We did 3 jobs from it, 3 exteriors, and I think it was, if I would look back, it's probably around that number, 20 grand.
That's a nice
ROI. Yeah. Nice ROI for kind of just going out there and putting a piece.
Yeah.
The first mailing, it's like you don't really know what you're putting on there. You're just putting an offer and hoping that somebody bites. You learn from it, just like everything. You learn from everything. You fail once and you don't quit. You learn from it and change it and adapt.
So you sold a few jobs, and you get some jobs under your belt. So you're out there painting yourself, and then you need to find some.
Yeah, I didn't. So I've only picked up a brush a few times since I was in my earlier 20s. So really I didn't, that was all. So we use subcontractors. We have 3 subcontract crews that actually have been with me since the beginning. So that's what we started doing. I went to Sherwin-Williams and I said, hey, I need some guys. And my local manager here gave me 3 references, and those are the 3 references that are still with me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So that actually worked out better than I could have expected. You don't hear that very often. I think I got pretty lucky with my first 3. So we actually started subcontracting. Okay. So that's what we did. So I didn't really, I was mainly just oversight of the projects, selling, sales, production, management, that type of thing.
Okay. And this was residential?
Yeah, just residential. Yeah, we didn't do our first commercial project until 2017.
Okay. So you get going, you're drumming up some leads with the mailers. First mailer did well for you. Then you walk us from there. What did you do after that to drum up business?
Yeah, so we did. So we started off, like I said, door to door, and then we did some direct mail. It's one of those things with the direct mail that, I did it again, didn't have great results with it, and I kind of got away from it. Just one of those things you got to put to the side and kind of forget about. We're going to actually start that back up this year. But we actually started, we got into BNI. We actually started in BNI. I did within, I think, the first month that I went on my own in 2017. So in the spring, I actually joined BNI. Okay. So that helped out a lot, with getting it was a pretty good chapter, good group. And the car wash owner was in there too. So she gave us a raving testimony, which was pretty funny in there. So that helped out. And there was quite a few people in there. I'd grown up with their kids actually. So they had seen me as a little guy, and now they're like, oh, Sam started his business. They really wanted to help out, and they did. I was pretty fortunate in that aspect. Okay. We did BNI, and then a lot of networking. I mean, at one time I shared an office with a roofer contractor, so he would give us some work too, and we would kind of feed off each other. We did some community events, sponsored some movies, different kind of stuff like that. And then so I was on the Boys and Girls Club board here in our kind of Morgan County where we're at. So I was on the board there, and we did a painting project there last year for free, paid most of the interior of that. So actually that got us some traction. Nice. But that wasn't what it was about. Yeah, really just, we didn't really have much of a website. Not much until really this year. So there wasn't a lot of, it wasn't Google SEO, anything like that. It was really just networking, honestly. And that was pretty much our main source of revenue. We did a little bit of you're going to hate me, but home advisor.
That's what we're here for, to help you break away from it now.
So we did we did quite a bit of that, and it kind of helped us scale and give us some volume at a high cost. And,
Yeah.
it worked for the time being, but it's something, you don't want to build your business on.
Right.
So, but yeah, so that was pretty much it for what we've done so far. And then now we've gotten into more of, we've had a nice website built that we've talked about, and we're running now. We're starting to get into some Google AdWords and getting our SEO established and blogging. And
did Mike build the site for you?
Yeah, Mike with ClickWiz did. Yeah, he did an excellent job.
Does he get things done or what?
Yeah, it just amazed me that it was done. And I mean, there were maybe one or two corrections I made, and it wasn't anything he did. It was something I had, given him the content or something. I didn't like it. Just an amazing website. We have the DYB funnel built into there on the front page. Got our video testimonials. I mean, just did a fabulous job. I'm very happy with Mike. I really had a good experience with him, and we're going to continue the relationship, doing the Google, like I said, AdWords and SEO as well.
Very cool. We'll link to, thank you, Sam. We'll link to Mike. His website's clickwiz.com, Mike Williams. Find him on Facebook. We'll link to him in the show notes for everybody listening today. You are on track. What are you on track for this year?
Yeah, so we're on track to hit 750,000 this year in gross sales. In 2017, I started kind of in March, was our first. March and April were our first projects that were completed. And then I actually worked until September. And then I actually came down to Florida. I have an adjuster's license too. So I actually came down there for that hurricane, and I worked that for a month, and we kind of took the winter off.
Okay.
It was kind of a unique opportunity. Just kind of came about at a good time. We were still in our first year. So it kind of, with being the subcontractor model, it kind of worked out well for us. But we did 200,000, just shy of 200,000 in 2017. So,
okay. So that's a nice little leap. 200,000, take the winter off, and then 750 this year. Yeah,
it was. And I mean, we have three crews. I'm the only employee. So
I'm surprised you didn't stay. A hurricane brought me down. I came down to help out with hurricane relief, and I just
I think we talked about that. Yeah. I told you I did. I was in Florida last time, and I called you. I said, Steve, I don't want to leave, man. I don't want to go back.
When you're down,
I got a business to run. Kind of troubling. Yeah, it was unique. It was a really crazy amount of money in a short period of time. So
okay,
a very blessed opportunity at the time. And so we started kind of back up mainly in like January. Around January 1, we started actively marketing and getting back into a groove. So it kind of honestly gave me time to plan, which was nice for the winter. Kind of take it easy and plan out 2018. And the plan has worked so far. So I'm very happy with it. A lot of it, is from working with you and DYB. There's been an insane amount of knowledge that I've gained from all the peers in there. All the other guys. Yeah, absolutely.
No, we started working together one-to-one, and then you're developing the commercial side. So I said, man, as much as I love working with you, I really should be working with Scott, right?
Yeah, Scott.
So you said, well, Steve, I trust you. Okay, so I introduced you to this total stranger.
This is a weird guy. Yeah.
Scott Lawler, yeah. And before I know it, hearing about this, excuse me, he came down to visit you, spent a day with you. Whoa. How did that go? What were some big takeaways for you there? Because we don't know what we don't know, right?
Oh, absolutely. And Scott's just I met Scott at PDCA AST 2 years ago. And, he's just such a well-known guy in the industry and just has so much knowledge. It's just an insane amount of knowledge. So he came down and visited for a day. We did a full kind of a deep dive into the business. And I think we left there with 6 or 7 pages of notes that Scott emailed me and said, here's what you need to do. I'm still working on that list, as I told you yesterday. But no, I'm very thankful for him, for yourself and the relationship with him. When he came down, I asked him anything, and he had an and then we kind of reflected on it, and he said, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? And that really, a lot of things that opened up my eyes happened that day. And it really was a lot of guidance that I think I needed, and a lot of clarity. He's not one to beat around the bush about things, which I need that. I can beat around the bush. I don't need somebody else beating around the bush with me, but I take care of that myself. But yeah, so that, really, we got to the bottom of things, and really unleashed, opened up what I really wanted to do in the business, and what the vision was, and what I wanted to be. So that was probably just the best investment I made probably so far in my business, I would say.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing your drive. Now, you shared some of, coming from a family of entrepreneurs. Where do you think, if we pull back the layers of this onion, where did your drive initially come from? Right? Because we're unique.
Right.
There's not many people who are building businesses, who are going for it, who have a comfortable job and go for it. Right.
Right. Well, yeah, I think so. When I was a kid, young kid, my dad ran his own business, and I think, he hit $1 million in his 20s as a plumbing contractor, which is not a glorious thing. That's why I never did that. But so I think with him, when I was a little kid, he would always take me to job sites with him. Every time we'd get a new company van, we'd take a ride in it, different stuff like that. So that really taught me from a young age, you had to work hard. And if anything I've learned from my father was you always have to work hard. And we didn't have a great, childhood. I have a brother and two sisters, and we didn't have a great childhood. So that's been a big factor in my life too. I had a single mother. My, parents had gotten divorced. So that was rough when I was young, and my mom basically raised us. So that really, opened my eyes up to see such a strong leader in her. And, she's never missed, I don't know if she's ever taken a sick day. I don't know. She always made sure that we had what we needed. So I think that really, when I was a young guy, that really instilled a lot in me, as far as, knowing that you have to work hard and knowing that you get what you put in. And I think that was probably what did it for me. So I saw that pretty early on, and I think I realized that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just like you, I had a rough, I also had a rough childhood. And then for me, it was just, I want a better life for my family.
But yeah, absolutely. Right. You grow up without, and you never want your spouse or your kids or anybody to have that same experience. Absolutely. It's not the way I look at it too. There's always somebody that's going to have it worse than you are. You're never going to have it. You're never going to find somebody that you think, oh, I had it way worse than you. It's not a contest, No,
right.
But it's one of those things that you learn that, you kind of had certain cards dealt to you, and
how are you going to play?
You get to a certain age, once you hit 18, it doesn't matter what your parents were, who influenced you. It's you. It's your life now. You don't get to play the card of, well, I had a rough life. That doesn't do anything for anybody, but just makes it worse for you, makes it harder on you. So the sooner you realize that, you really, you're going to experience a lot more happiness in your life. And that's something, it's just, I don't want to get into too much detail, but It wasn't great. Went through 2 divorces as a kid, and, had some, father dealt with a drug addiction, and had a stepdad, so it was.
But you took ownership. You're 18 or whatever the time was. You took ownership, and you were living above the line.
Yeah, exactly. Not living below the line, living above it. Yeah. And I had an older brother that was kind of, a mentor to me, kind of a figure in my life. So I looked up to him a lot, and he's actually a business owner as well. He owns, he runs now private training, and so we still talk a lot about it. So
what's been a paradigm shift for you to help you to reach this level?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones, really just clarity. Just this year, really, I've really realized that I was coming from the lumberyard background. I told you that, it was always who made the mistake. That was always the first action. So that was kind of my mindset, well, if somebody messes up, like who did it? Who did it? What happened? How did it happen? Not how do we fix it? So really thinking about it and knowing that if you fail, it doesn't mean that you're going to lose. It doesn't mean that that's the end. It doesn't mean that, you're a failure. But really having clarity and being clear about the fact that if you fail, it's an opportunity. Like I told you about the car wash, that could have been something I said, oh my gosh, we're just leaving. We're not doing this. We're done. Instead you persevere, you get through it, and then it turns out to be a good story. We've had, it's been an up and down year. It's been, we're growing a lot. It's stressful sometimes. And that's probably been the biggest shift in my, really in my attitude too, just knowing that, if you fail, it's an opportunity to make things better, improve, build a system out of it, make sure it doesn't happen again. So that's been pretty big for me.
The implementation of what would you say has made the biggest impact in your business?
Yeah, so definitely software has. We've started using Estimate Rocket, I think, on January 1. That's been huge for me, just standardizing how I do estimates, having production rates there, having the automatic email follow-up. That's been really big. So software with that and with Basecamp, using that for project management. Those have been two big things that were, part of what we talked about. And then really just getting out there, in DYB and posting in there and, just helping other people out, learning, growing, and sharing, as John Peake would say, Professor Peake. So, that's a big part of it. Not being scared of failing, like I said earlier, just knowing that, the ending's going to be good. You're going to make it work out. So, yeah, I would say tech's been a big part, though.
You mentioned culture and the other company. What do you do to elevate the culture of your company?
Yeah. So it's a little challenging too. Scott and I have talked a lot about this with my company, with the subcontractor model. It's kind of tough. It's more challenging, I think. So to get people to buy in, right, and to really feel like an owner or feel ownership in the business. So a lot of things we do, like are a lot of lunches with the guys, a lot of one-to-one lunches with the crew leads, a lot of, buying the guys T-shirts, buying them hats, stuff that they really don't expect from me, that we do anyways, buying them some equipment here and there, brush here and there, different stuff like that. And really just asking how they're doing, just taking a little bit into their life and not just being all about business. But, I have one subcontractor who's going through a divorce right now. For 2 months, he was off. There was something off there. And eventually he finally came out and told me, he's like, yeah, I've been going through a divorce, and I said, hey, just tell me that stuff, man. If there's anything I can do to help you, like, I'm here for you. You're part of the team. That's, you're not just anybody to me, you're like family to me. So really treating them like family is a big thing for us. And, like I said, it's challenging though. It took me a while to really figure out how to do that. And Scott and I and yourself, we've talked a lot about that and how to properly get buy-in like that. And it's not an easy thing, but I think we finally came over a boundary and are starting to look up on that, on the culture.
Awesome way to be. Books. Is there a book that stood out to you that really made a big impact?
Yeah. So one I just read, I don't know if you recommend it to me or not, but Pumpkin Plan.
Okay.
You read the Pumpkin Plan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's been really big for me. I read that a few months ago, and it just talks about really focusing on top clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of what we would call our A clients, right? Mm-hmm. UYB. So really focusing on that, and used to when you start, you take any job you can get. You're knocking doors and you're saying, please let me work for you. Whatever I can do, just I need to make payroll this week. Right. So that's been a big book that I've started implementing, was the Pumpkin Plan by Mike McCowitz, I believe.
Yep.
Focusing on your top clients and their experience.
Awesome.
So we have a commercial client right now that I love working with the guy. It's he manages 64 bank locations, facilities. Mm-hmm. And, so the other day I had a discussion with him and said, what can we do better for you? We love working for you. If you frame it right, that's going to make a big difference in your business. Caring, caring, not just thinking transactionally, but thinking of lifetime value of a customer. So that customer, for instance, we painted 6 banks for him back in May. They keep buying more banks. They're a community branch. And now we're driving down to Kentucky 3 hours away to paint more banks for them. So new locations. But so anyways, Pumpkin Plan was really good. Hiring on character. Talks about in there too, about a little bit about hiring. And then actually another book by him, Clockwork, that just came out. I really like that. It's similar to the E-Myth, right? Talks about systems a lot. And that's one I just actually finished that a couple of weeks ago, and I really like that. I think you recommended that as well.
Okay.
I guess I only read what Steve reads, but actually one last one, it's called Secret Service. The author slipped my mind right now, but it's all about customer service. And I would recommend people reading that. I think there's a second one out now too. I'm going to have to give you the author and put it in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah. Secret Service. Now that may be a new one for me. So.
Yeah, it's a really good read. I really liked it. So, yeah, so those are my three. Awesome.
Sam, is there a question I should have asked or some final points that you'd like to make before we roll out of here? Dark and early. Again, thank you for meeting me so early. Yeah. The sun's not even up yet. It's really
yeah, it's just starting to peek out up here. Saying hi. I think a big thing that I've really thought about this year, really started planning for it, is retirement. Everybody, I've been in the school of thought where it's like, oh, I'm 27 years old. I don't need to think about that. But I actually set up, you can set up a SEP IRA, a self-employment IRA. And I started doing that and dumping money into it every year now. But it's something you don't think about, but it's going to happen. We're going to get old. You're in your 20s. We're invincible. I'm invincible right now. I still think, I can conquer the world. Maybe I will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember.
But, yeah, the feeling. So, one of those things, though, but again, clarity. Just knowing, hey, this is going to happen eventually. And so that's a big thing. And just, honestly, a big one for me is health. Just actually focusing on, because your business can run great, right? And but it's stressful. Your mental health suffers, and your physical health suffers too. So big thing for me is getting exercise, eating properly. A couple of years ago, when I worked at a desk at the lumberyard, I weighed 285 pounds. I weigh 235 today. So just keeping in shape is a big thing for me. And
whole life success.
Exactly. Yeah. The whole picture, not just successful business. You want successful relationships, health. It's a big thing. So that's been kind of, again, just the clarity of, realizing that, we're not going to live. Hopefully we live forever, but I don't know. Just knowing that you got to take care of yourself, especially if you have kids and you want to see your grandkids and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely. Sam, once again, thank you so much for taking time out to get up extra early to meet with me and to share your story. If somebody would like to follow up, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
Yeah, so they could go to our new website. It's www.painterpro.com, or you could reach out via email. It's sam@painterpro.com.
Awesome. Fantastic.
On Facebook as well.
On Facebook as well. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sam.
Thanks for having me, Steve.